Hello, my homesteading family. Okay, so I promised you I would get to this Dijon mustard. This is going to be a two-part series. Today is just the basic getting it set up so that we can let it sit for 24 hours because the mustard seed has to absorb the liquid. So we won't be able to even can it or even fix the rest of it up until tomorrow. I'm going to break this down in two parts. This is the canning book and where you will find the recipe at. And it is on page 109, called the Dijon mustard. Now, I will tell you that the ingredients state that it needs 2 cups of chopped onions. There is 2 cups of pignat. However, I don't, there are different degrees. It's got to be a dry white wine. So, honestly, I actually went with the chardonnay. It was about $9 for this bottle. Yes, there's carbs in this. Yes, there's sugar. Breaking it down, you only need 2 cups. I think from what I researched, and it's iffy there, basically, but it states it's got about 16.09 of carbs for the entire bottle. And there's about 7.15 grams of sugar. Now, there are carbs and sugar in this. When you break this recipe will basically give you 6 to 7 4-ounce jars. And for the most part, moderation, key thing. My husband, he'll put maybe a half a tablespoon, if that, or even a teaspoon of mustard on his sandwich. So this spreads for a long ways, and it is not so far spiked or even tampered with the sugar. Now, again, I'm always going to state that. Test yourself to see if it works. The other ingredients is 1 cup of white wine vinegar, 5% acidity. Make sure it says 5% because this is a water bath canning method. So I use a inexpensive white wine vinegar. There's no carbs, no sugar, none of that in it. So it's just a great value white wine vinegar is what I've been using. It goes to saying that it needs 6 cloves of garlic, coarsely chopped. Your onions are just chopped onions. 4 black corns, 1 rosemary sprig, a cup of yellow mustard seeds. Now, the mustard seeds, you don't have to get anything fancy either. I've been getting mine because I can get them by a bulk instead of the grocery store, online on Amazon. So this is the only thing that I will use. And then it calls for a 1/3 cup of dry mustard. And again, you can use any type of dry mustard that you can afford. I do by the bulk because I can get more for my money. I will tell you, in the beginning, a lot of people think that it's just a very bold flavor. And it is. It has a very bold flavor when you first make it. The boldness will tend to decrease over time, becoming more mellow. This is normal. This is part of the process. So you may find you may enjoy this, you may not. I happen to enjoy it, and the more it sits on my shelf till I use it, the mellower it's getting. So just for you to know right off the bat, it's kind of spicy, and it's a very bold flavor. So with that, we're going to start out. It says to combine the first 7 ingredients in a large stainless steel or enamel saucepan. Bring to a boil over high heat. Reduce heat and simmer uncovered for 15 to 20 minutes or until the onions are very soft. Stir occasionally. Remove pan from heat. Pour onion mixture through a wire sieve into a glass or stainless steel bowl, and then you just discard the onions and the rosemary sprig and your cloves of garlic. So we're going to start out then. We've got here in our pot, and yeah, this is a mess. It's clean, y'all, I promise. I use it for so much. It's got 2 cups of chopped onions. I am one-handed here, folks, so I like to get everything out of it. So these are our 2 cups of onions. I have 6 cloves of my garlic that are coarsely chopped. I kind of pressed them down a little bit too to extract some of that garlicky extraction oils. And now I'm going to add 2 cups of, for me, my Chardonnay dry white wine. And let's see, we've got 1 cup of white wine vinegar. If I don't dump this, yes. 4 peppercorns, which I have right here as well. You can go a little more if you want. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll go about 5. Depends on how spicy you may want it. 1 sprig of rosemary, and I'm using my fresh rosemary from my garden. Let's see. Yeah, hang on a second. I will be right back with you on this one. I apologize for that. I'd like to wash everything, and then I realized for me, I just like to release the oil, so I didn't get to do that yet. So there's my sprig of rosemary. Now, at this point, this is all we're going to put in here. We're going to turn it to a medium-high heat, and we're going to bring it to a boil. Once I bring this to a boil, I'm going to bring it down and stir occasionally, reducing the heat to a simmer, uncovered for 15 to 20 minutes. At this point, I'll bring you back to when I get it to a boil, and I will see you shortly. Okay, so our pot has now come up to a boil on our juice. At this point, we want to turn around and turn it to simmer. We'll set our timer for, I'm going to start with 15 minutes, and what we're looking for is these onions to get translucent in color. We're just extracting, more or less heating all the seasonings. And I did forget when I added this the ingredients to the pot, I forgot that the salt, it's 1 teaspoon of salt. I like to use Himalayan, so I added 1 teaspoon of salt to this mixture too. So now I'm going to turn this down to a simmer. Sorry for all the smoke, y'all. It's kind of cool in the house, so everything is a bit more smokier. I am going to set my timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to check on it, and if it needs more time, another 5 minutes, I'll go ahead and reset it again. But I'm just going to stir this occasionally, let this cook, and let these onions cook down to a translucent color. And then once this is done, I will come back and show you the next process. Okay, our 15 minutes is up. What you're looking for when I say translucent, and this is done, I'm not going to have to cook it 5 more minutes, but that see-through look on your onions, this is what we're looking for. So at this point, you can smell the rosemary. Everything is marrying in with the heat in here. So now I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to strain this. All we want as far as this mustard is nothing but the liquid. So all of this ingredients is going to go into a strainer, and that is our next step now. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here to this bowl, and we're going to take and strain all of this. If this gets smoky or foggy, I am so sorry. I'm going to carefully put this in here so that I don't lose any of my liquids. I did this the first time, and it was awful. Okay, yeah, see, it's hot. And in a cool house, this just don't work very well. I am so sorry. So, now that we've got all this in here, basically, you can do what you want with this. It just says to discard it, and that's kind of what I'm going to do. Sorry about the dog. My husband's coming home from work, so she probably hears him. Or at least somebody else probably. So we're going to take, now that we got all this liquid out of here, transfer it back over there. And this is what we want. Nothing but the liquid. Now I'm using a stainless steel bowl, and I'm going to convert this to a glass jar or a measuring cup. And I am going to add the next set of ingredients, which we will come back to that shortly. Okay, so I transferred into my 4-cup measuring cup, because this from now on, after I add the last 2 ingredients, this is going to sit overnight. You want your mustard seed to be able to absorb all of this liquid. We'll be pureeing it tomorrow, adding our water, and then we'll be canning it for our final step. So the next process is adding 1/3 cup of the dry mustard that I showed you. And we add now 1 cup of mustard seed. And now we're going to blend this all together. Make sure that we can get it smooth, get the powders broke up in here really good. And we're not going to do nothing else to it. Let it cool off and then just cover it overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up really good, and I will finish this process with you. Okay, so now that I mix this up really good, I'm just going to let this cool down, and I'm going to put a lid on this and just let it sit at room temperature overnight. At this point, you're just going to let it mix together. It's going to be presenting its bold flavors and everything that you need. I will tell you, it's up to you if you want to use a Pinot or a Chardonnay. Either one of them work perfectly fine, as long as it, again, as it's a dry white wine. Now, another thing is we are used to, when we see Dijon, that smooth, really smooth, commercialized texture, Grey Poupon and otherwise. When you make your own homemade, this is what's left of that 1 jar I have. It is, I'm going to try and scoop this up. It is grainy. It's not nothing that is super hard or nothing like that. It's actually pretty smooth, but it will become grainy. And it also depends on what you use. Some people have a Vitamix. Some people just have a blender. It's whatever hype you have. I have really just a blender, and it did pretty well for me. It's still smooth. It's still Dijon to me, and I'm perfectly fine, but you're not going to get a commercial grade when you make homemade, so I want you to know that. And again, it will have a nice earthy flavor to it. It'll have some bite, just like a Dijon does. I had a lady come to me when I had showed her or taught her how to do this, saying it wasn't sweet enough. Honestly, Dijon is not supposed to be a very sweet mustard. She chose to add sugar and honey. I'm going to inform you, please don't do that. It doesn't need that. We make a Dijon in a way that we can eat it, and being diabetics, we definitely do not need to add those sugars. If you are not into an unsweetened and a earthy, robust Dijon, then this might not be something you want to do. But if you're like me and enjoy those flavors, then by all means, grab your ingredients and let's go for it. In the meantime, until tomorrow, you have to let this sit at least 24 to 48 hours, no more than 48 hours. You don't want it to get too strong, so basically try to keep, honestly, at the 24-hour mark. And until tomorrow, I will be back to continue the second process of this, which is the pureeing part of it and then the canning part of it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I explained thoroughly enough for you to understand it. And if you have any questions, leave your comments down below, and I will get to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, God bless. Until tomorrow, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.